Hello guys, welcome to this course on CSS3 tutorial for beginners. This course gonna be a playlist, meaning I shall be dropping series of videos on CSS on this channel, unlike the HTML crash course. But then if you haven't checked out my crash course on HTML5 for beginners, check that out before you take this course. I'll put a link to the video in the description. In this video, we'll be looking at what CSS actually is, basically an introduction to CSS. Now, CSS is an acronym which stands for Cascading Style Sheet. CSS is a standard style sheet language used for describing the presentation, that is why the formatting, the layout of our web pages. Okay, prior to CSS, nearly all of the presentational attributes of HTML documents were contained within the HTML markup, precisely the HTML tags. All the font sizes, the font types and stuffs, colors, background styles, the elements, alignments, borders, sizes, had to explicitly describe within the HTML. As a result, development of large websites actually became a long and expensive process, since the style information were repeatedly added to every single page of the website. So, to solve this problem, CSS was now introduced in 1996 by the World Wide Web Consortium, which also maintains a standard. CSS was now designed to enable the separation of presentation on content. That's the main reason for what designing CSS, to separate the presentation of a website than the content inside, so that everything don't need to be packed in one document. Now, web designers can move the formatting information of the web pages to a separate style sheet, which results in considerably simpler HTML markup and better maintainability. Now, one may ask, what's the difference between CSS and CSS3? They're actually similar though, but what happens is CSS3 is now the latest version of CSS specification. CSS3 has several new styling features and improvements to enhance the web presentation capabilities. With all this said, what can we do with CSS? With CSS, you can easily apply same style rules on multiple elements. You can also control the presentation of multiple pages of a website with a single style sheet. You can present the same page differently on different devices. Also with CSS, you can change the position of an element on a web page without changing the markup. You don't work with it, you just leave the markup which you've designed with HTML. Then with your CSS, you now start to change the elements which you've used in your HTML markup. With CSS, you can create cool animations and transition effects without using any JavaScript. At first, working with animations and transitions on websites used to be done with JavaScript, but with CSS3 it has added features that you can use only CSS to do that without having any knowledge in JavaScript. Now, is learning CSS worth it? What are some of the pros of CSS? CSS saves lots of time. CSS actually gives lots of flexibility to set the style properties of an element. You can write CSS once, and then the same code can be applied to groups of HTML elements and can also be reused in multiple HTML pages. With CSS2, maintainability is enhanced, or is easy. CSS provides an easy means to update the formatting of the documents and to maintain the consistency across multiple documents. You see, because the content of the entire set of web pages can be easily controlled. Now with CSS, also ensures what pages load, faster load of what pages. CSS enables multiple pages to share the formatting information, which reduces the complexity and repetition in the structural contents of the documents. It significantly reduces the file transfer size, which results in a faster page loading. CSS also has much power styles as compared to HTML. It has a wider presentation capabilities than HTML and provide much better control over the layout of your web pages. So you can just give far better look to your web pages in comparison to HTML presentational elements and attributes. With CSS, You can develop websites that are compatible on all screens or all screen devices or multiple screen devices. CSS allows web pages to be optimized for more than one type of device or media. Using CSS in the same HTML documents can be presented in different viewing styles for different rendering devices such as desktop, cell phones, and etc. So with all this said, let's just jump into let's do something small with CSS. Let's see what we can do with CSS. We aren't delving into CSS much in this particular video. The subsequent videos will now start looking at CSS very well, but let's just take a look at what we can do with CSS. So I've just created a file which I name as order.html, which I explained all this in my HTML crash course, so I wouldn't go over them again. So let's even leave the title. For instance, let's just give our first heading as, let's just say, my first web page. But before that, let's comment that out. So that let's open the file. This is the file. So let's open it on Google Chrome. There's nothing there. Okay, now let's come. Let's uncomment that. All this is in lowercase. Let's refresh. Now you see my first web page. Now what we want to do here is we want to use CSS to change the font the font size of this our H1, and also to convert the lowercase to uppercase. For now it's in lowercase, but I want to change it to uppercase, so we can use CSS to do that. In our next videos I will be explaining the syntax of CSS. You understand? So don't worry of whatever I do here if you don't understand it. I just want you guys to have a feel of what we can actually do with CSS, or while learning CSS, what it as a web developer. So let's select our H1. Now first we are changing our font size, so let's say our font size should be 15 pixels. Let's save and see what happens. It's very small. Now let's say 55 and see what happens. It's much bigger. Now let's just change the background color. Let's just change the background color to black, and let's see, it's totally black because the text by default is also black. That's what the browser does. It gives its default styling. So right now let's change the text color to white so that we can see it. Wow, cool. Now let's change the lowercase to uppercase. Wow, you could see that first it was in lowercase, but with a single line of code it has changed to uppercase. So basically that's what you can do with CSS. In the subsequent videos we shall be delving deep into CSS. Guys, please if you like this video, consider liking it and subscribe. Please make sure you subscribe and turn on your notification bell so that anytime I upload a video you will see it. Thank you for staying tuned.